Hello, everybody. We are live again, and this is from Transperfect, the art of dubbing shared secret. And this time it's episode number 9. And the title of this episode is Versatility in Voiceover. And today we have a super nice guest, Maria. Maria joined, and she's coming. Uh, Hold on. It takes always a little bit of time to. Here she is, Maria.
Hello.
Yes, thank you very much for joining.
Thank
So,
you for having me,
oh
Jacques.
no,
It's
no,
a
so
pleasure.
glad to meet you, and we are going to talk about what you did, and you did a lot apparently. So very impressive. So let me start by saying to everybody that you are
But
Brazilian.
yeah, I don't
So
really see you.
you don't see me. You don't
No,
see
I
me.
hear you, but I don't see you.
And now, can you see me?
Um,
Hmm.
Not really.
I don't. Yeah, can you call Claudia, please? Okay, that's interesting. Hold on 1 second. No. Okay, our technician is going to come because I don't know why you don't see me, because I see myself on the screen, but
We can see everything.
Wow.
okay. So the other people can see both of us. So
They can.
yeah, they
Well,
can. As
okay.
long as they can see you, that's the most important. Me, nobody cares.
Right, I can hear you very well.
Okay, so let's continue like that. Don't worry about that.
All right.
So Maria is Brazilian, living in Barcelona. So I'm going to let you introduce briefly yourself, and after we are going to talk about your career, what you did, and I have a bunch of questions for you about improvisation, acting, voiceover, dubbing, and everything else.
Great. Well, introducing myself, I'm Brazilian. I've been living in Barcelona for 17
Oh
years.
my goodness.
Um, yeah, so I'm almost Catalan, a little bit, very Brazilian still.
Of course.
Um, and I work mostly in Brazilian Portuguese as a voice actress. I sometimes work for projects that require international English, but I mostly work with Brazilian Portuguese for agencies all over the world with all sorts um, very, very different types of projects. And
Yeah.
I love doing this job.
Yes, we are going to talk about the different projects you are working on. But tell me, where are you from in Brazil?
I'm
Sao
from,
Paulo,
uh,
Rio?
it's called Belo Horizonte,
Oh, I know
which
Belo
is,
Horizonte.
yeah, oh, have you been there?
No, I've been only to Sao Paulo and Rio more because I work at Warner Brothers for many, many, many years, and I've been a lot of time to Brazil to dub the movies, for Harry
Oh,
Potter, for Batman, and all these big movies I
amazing.
supervised. And as you probably know, the dubbing is more in Rio. You have more
Exactly.
actors,
Yeah.
and in São Paulo is more commercial, voiceover, corporate stuff. Uh, two different cities and two different fields, and it looks
Yeah.
like for the dubbing, people in Brazil like the carioca accent from the Rio people. So you know. It's very, very, but I love Brazil. I'm a musician, and every time I go there, I spend a lot of time with my friends there, playing music. I play bossa nova regularly, you know,
Oh,
because I'm a jazz player. And so every time I go to Rio, I go to these places where you still find a lot of bossa nova records and stuff like that, you know.
yeah, that is very, very precious. This
That's
is
the
like,
place. That's the place to be. So listen, Maria, I understand that you have your own studio,
yeah, yeah,
and that's great. So you don't need anything else because you have everything at home. Uh, and I understand that you have been working with a lot of different brands, Porsche, Philips, Nike, Miel. So if you talk about Porsche, which is sport car, Nokia, which is phone, Nike, which is shoes, and Miele, which is a washing machine and stuff like that, my first question is, how do you receive directions from the client, and how do you adapt your attitude? You know, in the Dubbing Academy, we talk a lot of the attitude of the character, because obviously you don't talk about Porsche like you talk about Nike. So,
yeah, of course.
what's your
Yeah.
approach, and how do you get direction?
Well, question is, I don't only do the same kind of job for all these companies. I do different types of jobs. So I will do, for example, sometimes corporate material, sometimes commercial, sometimes podcasts, sometimes e-learning, sometimes videos for the employees. The type of job itself already changes the tone, of course, because depending on
Absolutely.
what I'm doing, if I'm selling something, or if I'm talking to employees, or if I'm just explaining how a company works, the tone already changes.
Correct.
But then, of course, from product to product, of course, if you're talking about when I did the work for the mill, they say mill, right?
Yeah,
The
Miele or Miel, yeah.
Yeah, I remember they asked me to pronounce it in German, which was like Mille.
Yeah, Miele, yeah.
And they said this is a very expensive brand. They sell these things for a very expensive price. So you're speaking to like rich people.
Yeah.
You're speaking to people who want to hear something sophisticated and something that can show them you're selling something special and sophisticated, which is different from, which is sort of the same. I mean, with some of these brands, like with Chanel, for example, it's more charming and um, it's also sophisticated, but there's a touch of sensuality to it.
Great.
So, yeah, so depending on what you're talking about, the product and the type of job you're talking about, yes, so clients will tell you who you're speaking to, who your audience is. I think that's one of the most basic things, who we're talking to, and also what we need to make them feel. We need them to buy something. We need to convince them of something. We need to seduce them. We need to entertain them. We need to make them feel happy, inspired, or
Yeah, this is
so.
and this is great. And because you know, in the Dubbing Academy, we try to explain, you know, the different type of voiceover, how you can you know convey some messages from the client. But you know, voiceover and dubbing, and in the Dubbing Academy, it's uh, two different parts, if you want. The acting is really acting because you impersonate a character, so you have to be a character in a different language. Now, for an advertising, is a little bit different. For obviously for e-learning, well, you don't impersonate much, you know, because you are pretty neutral. But as soon as you go in commercial, that you become the voice of the brand, and
Yeah,
so
exactly. I was going to say that even though you're not a character, you are somehow a character because you are not really yourself.
no,
I'm playing, for example, a member of this staff of this company or a CEO for example, when I speak, I am being sort of someone else, even though it's not like a cartoon or an acting job.
Yeah.
It is somehow acting as well, because I am trying to convey something or to express something specific.
Absolutely, absolutely, because you are becoming the voice of a brand and you represent the brand. A few years ago, I did a conference in a big event on the importance of casting in the importance of voice casting in branding or something like that. And I was talking about the fact that the voice is so important, and the voice can really represent a brand, and that's why a lot of brand select an actor to represent the brand, because you have the image. Now, in your case, it's a voice, so it's even more difficult because you don't have the image and you just have your voice to
Yeah,
represent something abstract,
you
which is
have to transmit everything with only your voice. You don't have the
exactly,
help of gestures, of facial expressions or images. So it is, I think, a lot harder than
yeah,
acting in a way,
absolutely.
because
Yeah, because you don't have anything to support. It's
yeah,
just your voice and you pass the message. So this is pretty cool. So most of the time, do you, and this is for all the people that are listening, do you do some research on the brand before, when you know that you are going to work for Nokia, let's say, or Philips? Are you doing some research on the brand to feel a little bit who they are, where are they
yeah,
coming from?
yeah. I try to watch some videos that the company uses to represent them, and also, but I mainly listen to what the client says, the director. I mean, what they expect with that specific video or that specific audio, what
Sure.
exactly they need to transmit, uh, and it tends to be very specific.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Great. So you are working a lot with obviously emotions, transmitting a message, which is things that we cover a little bit in the Dubbing Academy. Obviously, in the Dubbing Academy, it's like a book, so you read it and you have to work on it. It's not. It's not because you finish the course that you know everything, because the experience represents a lot.
So much. And also, I realize I learn so much by listening to myself sometimes, and saying, like, what don't I like about it? Or what do I especially like about it? Or listening to other colleagues, like things I like or things I don't like.
Okay, that is very important. I like that a lot, what you just said, listening to yourself. Because one of the most difficult things is to judge yourself. Because it's very easy to judge other people, but judging yourself and having an objective opinion about what you just did, that is very difficult. And I touch on that on the Dubbing Academy, but I know this is really one of the hardest things to do. You record something and say, okay, now I have to forget that I just did that, and I'm a listener, and I'm listening. And what do I think about this voice? And you have to remove yourself from the project and listen as a lambda listener. So this is great. This is
Yeah.
a great example of what needs to be done.
Yeah,
So,
also I think getting feedback from other people, like
of
I
course,
did some coaching sessions which have been so helpful to me, because I with a very, very good Brazilian voice actress called Simone Clias, and what she did was she listened to my audios and she said things she liked, things she didn't like, and sometimes you don't hear them yourself. It's hard for you to
yes,
see
correct.
certain things.
Yes,
And then when people tell you, say, oh, yeah, that is what I don't like about it. And I knew I didn't really quite like something, but I didn't know exactly why.
Exactly, and being able to pinpoint and to analyze what you hear. So, talk about the voice, talk about the elocution, talk about the way of talking, talk about your pitch, talk about the speed, talk about everything. Of course, that is important to be able to deconstruct your voice and to analyze each point. Maybe I should insist a little bit more about that in the Dubbing Academy. I'm going to add some. I'm going to add some content. This is a good idea.
And have that humble attitude that we always have things to learn, even if we're professionals and we can always learn and improve.
Absolutely. There is great musician, Yehudi Menuhin, a violinist, classical violinist, great violinist, who was saying, if you stop learning when you are a musician, it's better to stop immediately playing because that's it.
Yeah.
So you have to learn all the time. I'm a musician. I'm much older than you, and I play my guitar all the time, every day, and I stay in shape, and I continue to improve. I do jazz, so I do improvisation, and this leads me to your improvisation group because I understand that you do improvisation. So I want to talk about that. But first, I want to make sure that everybody knows that you got an international prize, the Sovas Voice Arts Award, Outstanding Narration, e-learning, Best Portuguese Voiceover. So big congratulations, big bravo,
Thank you.
fantastic. This is very nice, and I know you are probably very proud, and you are right because it's a lot.
Yeah.
Um, so um, so now you are on top of what you do, your career as a voiceover, and after we talk about acting, but you are now doing some improvisation. So tell us a little bit, what is improvisation? What do you do? And after I want to talk about the relation between improvisation and your work or with acting, because I always relate everything with music, as you can probably see
Yeah.
by the academic course. So tell me about the improvisation. What do you do there?
Yeah, I'm actually really beginning to learn. I didn't know much about improvisation until I started doing it. Just as when I started working as a voice actress, I didn't know much about it, and now I'm feel like I'm a little baby in the improvisation world. It is a very hard art because it requires us to be really present, really to think very fast, to really listen to the others, to
Yeah.
react quickly, but to support each other very much. But of course, it involves a lot of acting and a lot of we make hundreds of characters in one class because we are always doing short scenes. So you could in one day be a man, an old woman, a child, an object, and you could have all sorts of feelings, like you could be jealous, you could be angry, you could be proud, you could be suspicious, you could be afraid, you could be paranoid. So that is very helpful also because practicing the construction of characters constantly, different emotions, different tones, different sensations, different feelings, and
Yeah.
having to react quickly to each of them to go from one to another very quickly, like being very excited and then being very sad the next time. So it's an
You have
amazing
to,
practice for,
yeah, you have to change emotions very fast, change attitudes very fast, and this is what I like in animation, because in
yeah,
animation you find a little bit this property if you want, because the characters are so
yeah,
extreme,
definitely. Yeah.
yeah, and
Extreme
so
emotions. Yeah.
exactly. And you can jump from one to the other in 1 second. I spent most of my career with the Looney Tunes and all the Cartoon Network stuff. And, it was so much fun. I still do. I still have some project with animation, which I love a lot. And this is a little bit like what you said. You have to change very fast. So this is probably helping you a lot in your acting because
Very much. And the other way around as well, I think one helps very much the other. My experience as a
sure, of
voice
course.
actress does help me a little because improvisation is so hard, but also it definitely helps me in the construction of characters. And dubbing, I have to say, is my favorite job in the voice world by far. And I wish I could do it more, but most of it is done in Brazil. But it's my very favorite type of voice of
Yeah,
work.
yes, that's true. That most of the dubbing is done in Brazil. But I'm sure we can find something for you in Barcelona. I'm going to start working on that. So, what would you say about flexibility, about jumping from voiceover to improvisation to dubbing? At the end, everything is a little bit the same.
Yeah.
At the end, you have to, regardless of what you do, you have to act. And maybe we all act anyway. In your life, you act all the
Yeah.
time. So you act in front of your boss, in front of your husband, in front of your wife. So you always act a little bit. And but this is different type of acting. So are you my question is, do you rely on the experience you have on other genders, or for you it's one big art and you take what it is on the moment?
If I rely on my experience on what? I'm sorry, I missed the.
Your experience of the different type of work you do. Is it for you acting as a whole, or is it very different from one project to the other?
I think it's basically what you said. I think, like as Shakespeare said, all the world is a stage, and we're merely players. So I guess we're constantly kind of acting, but and I think they're all very similar. I think the creation of I think sometimes we're just more creating a real character, which is the specific thing about improvisation, or when you dub, like you're really being someone specific. But whenever you're trying to express a specific feeling or emotion, somehow you're incorporating a character. And I think it's all about learning to express yourself more truly as possible, to learn about your own emotions, to and how you feel different things. I think it's all very similar.
Yes, and even if you impersonate a specific character on a specific movie, you know, people who don't really know the being, they tell you have to really be the character and do exactly like the English are doing, and that never works, because Brazilian is not English, French is not
Exactly.
Brazilian,
That is a very good
French is
point.
not English. So you always put a little bit of adaptation. And I always say when I do conferences, you don't dub to a language, you dub to a culture, obviously. And so dubbing to a culture, you as a Brazilian, you are going to put something from your culture in your impersonation of this specific character. So even if you
Totally.
are not
Yeah.
aware of it, you will do it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. And that is a very good point, because sometimes I get people saying, uh, can you sound like the English version? And I say, this is not how happy sounds in Brazil.
Exactly.
Happy in Brazil is different. This doesn't sound happy to me. I mean, if I sound like the English version, I will not sound happy for my culture.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's a very good point.
this often happens when I work with directors who don't understand um, this important aspect of working with different cultures. Um,
Yes,
but yeah, we do put a little bit of ourselves and our cultures in each character. And
I remember one time I arrived in Japan to dub one of the Warner movie, and I had to work with a star talent there, a singer called Ranran Suzuki. She was one of the top 5 singers in Japan, so big artist, and um, and the director, her agent is coming to me and saying, "Ohayo gozaimasu," and meaning, how are you doing? Ohayo gozaimasu. So I look at my friend, my colleague from Warner, and who was assisting me because I didn't speak Japanese. I said, "Well, is she already upset at me or something?" She said, "No, that's the way we talk there." So. I say, okay, I understand now. So it's not the same kind of tone we would use, in different countries. But in Japan, it's like
exactly,
that, and
exactly.
that's the way they feel. So we adapted the movie, and everything went very well. So this is good. So what are your next project? Tell us about the future. So we'll try
Ooh.
to find you dubbing to do in Barcelona because so
Oh, I would love that so much.
you like dubbing,
That
so
so
we need to
that is
find
my
something.
future project. We could say that's my next project. This would be really this is really what I most like doing. I like acting more than I like selling.
Of course. Tell
Um,
me, what is your take on acting on live action versus acting on animation?
um, I guess animation has like normally has like funnier characters. Like you have to play a little more with your voice, with different voices, with different. It tends to be. I mean, the people I've dubbed have been like normal,
Yeah,
pretty normal people,
yeah.
and
It's live action. Yeah, it's normal.
yeah, so it's more like a normal person, of course, with different feelings and intentions and everything, but like real people. While when you're dubbing content, I've dubbed like characters that were not even people, that were kind of funny creatures,
Oh,
and
cool.
you playing like with different voices, like doing very high voices, or very low voices, or like um I think it's a little more challenging to do
Yeah,
cartoons.
of course. That's what I always thought. Dubbing for animation, um, from from the point of voice characterization, it's much more challenging because you don't dub with your own voice. If you have the movie talking like that for the whole movie, it's really tiring. So you have to think about all the time your voice and the acting, and your voice and acting, and do the two things at the same time. And this is not easy. I always compare this to when you drive. When you learn how to drive, you have to think about the pedals, and you have to think about looking in front of you, looking in the back. It looks like you have to do 20 things at the same time.
Yeah,
After it's coming easily, but at the beginning it's not easy.
yeah,
Uh,
and the emotions tend to be more extreme as well.
exactly.
So you have
Um,
to react more, yeah, more intensely.
and that's where the improvisation also can help you, because uh, because I think you are a little bit more free in the animation to push the character to even further limits. In live action, if you do Julia Roberts, well, it's Julia Roberts. You cannot push too much. You have to
Exactly.
act. You have to impersonate her the best you can, but you cannot go too far. In animation, you can go pretty far.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Very
in improvisation, you could actually be objects. You could actually be a feeling. You could actually say, I am anger, for example.
this is
Or
pretty cool. Oh, this is nice.
yeah. So it is very extreme. You could be anything. You could be a wave. You could be a cloud. You could be a box. You could be anything. So it is crazy. It is an amazing exercise.
Wow, this is great. I need to come and see an improvisation. Do they accept public in your group? I want to see that, you know. This is
And
really
I was
cool.
lucky to meet a group here in Barcelona. They're just so amazing. It's a school run by women, by two fantastic women called Kiva and Ella. Kiva from Ireland and Ella from Australia. And yeah, it's such a warm place because I mean you expose yourself so much. You feel so vulnerable when you're and they created a perfect place for us to just express ourselves without fear.
This is very nice. This is great. Tell me a little bit about your studio. So you have, I understand, you have a studio bricks.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
inside it right now.
I see
So
that,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
You know, the studio bricks are people from Barcelona. Uh, they are Spanish from Barcelona, and very nice people. We have a few. I know them pretty well. So I understand you run Pro Tools in your studio, correct?
no, I use Studio One.
Oh, Studio One. What is Studio One?
Well, it is just
Which brand?
another
Which brand is that?
software. Oh, now you caught me. I don't
No,
know.
I will do some research because this is interesting.
Yeah, I
Um,
have a friend who is an engineer,
yeah,
and he said Studio One was like one of the best, even though it wasn't so commonly used. And I trusted him very much.
of course.
And yeah, he said it was very good to work,
Yeah,
and it
great.
is really very good to work with.
I will check. What did you think about the Rhythmo band? I'm not talking about the Studio Next software because if you have another software, that's fine. You are used to work with your software. But what do you think about the concept of the Rhythmo band? Because in Brazil, they don't use that too much. It's really in France and Belgium and Canada.
I'm not sure. I know what it is.
No, the Rhythmo band is the text that is scrolling when you do your assignment with the Debating Academy. You know
All right.
the text.
Okay,
Yeah,
on the screen, you see
yeah, on
this
the
the
screen.
script on the screen.
Yeah,
Oh, I think that would be very helpful sometime. There might be, even though I'm used to having the script on my tablet, and next to me I have my computer where I just pause, and so I don't really look at yeah. But when you have to synchronize,
exactly.
yeah,
So the
yeah,
Rhythmo
because
band is
I tend to, yeah,
yeah, the Rhythmo band is really for dubbing. It's not for commercial. For commercial, you don't need that because you don't need to sync your
yeah.
voice to a
I
picture.
actually do very often because I normally do projects which come from an original in
Yeah.
English. So if I'm not dubbing, I have to synchronize quite a lot. But yeah, so I have to stop in the end and adjust
Ah,
the
okay. I see.
or stop little by little and adjust. I mean, I have an idea. I look at it. I listen before. I see the rhythm. I understand the rhythm I
Of
have to
course.
follow.
Like
And
I say, it's all about rhythm. You know, when you, I mean, I don't know for you, but for me, when I hear somebody say, "Hey, Jacques, how you doing?" I hear in my head, "Ta ta 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 ta."
exactly, yeah.
It's just the rhythm, and after you put words on the rhythm, and at least if you can get that, that's the most important. Okay, so I understand. Tell me, what did the dubbing academy? Because you did great. Obviously, the assignments were top notch. We love what you did. the
Thank you.
impersonation of the characters, the voiceover work, everything was great. What did it bring for you? Did they give you a different angle, or because you are already a pro, so did it bring something?
Working, I mean, having taken the course at the
Yes,
Dubbing
yes,
Academy, you mean?
yes, the Dubbing
Well,
Academy.
yeah, as I said, I think you always learn so much from everything. I really have that attitude. Everything I do is very helpful. And I mean, working with Studio One was something because having the text on screen, as you're saying,
Yeah.
I mean, having not Studio One. I'm sorry, Studio Next.
Studio Next, yeah,
Studio
yeah.
Next. Yeah. So having the text on screen, it is indeed very helpful. Um, but also, I don't know. I mean, quite a lot of tips, a lot of suggestions, a lot of different instructions I got when I was taking the lessons. As I said, you always learn so much
Great.
from
You,
everything.
just for you to know, and I don't know about Studio One, but Studio Next with the retro band, it's now you can sync it with Pro Tools. So meaning that we just released an interface, and in the newest version, you can run Pro Tools and have Studio Next running. So you don't have to record on Studio Next, but you can use it just to have the rhythm band. So
Oh, that is fantastic. Do you
yes,
think we might be able to do it with Studio or with other
I
different
don't know.
software?
It was already very complicated to do it with Pro Tools because it's not really an open software. So we have a lot of engineers developing the platform, and they are all in the south of France, which is very convenient for me. But I don't know. I will ask them about Studio One and see what it is.
Well, but
I'm
it
not.
might be a good reason to shift to Pro Tools.
It could be a good reason for you to go to Pro Tools because you can record a lot of tracks, but you can have the rhythm band, and that's obviously as you had a taste of it in the Dubbing Academy. That's it was invented in 1930 something in France, so it's not new. It's a very old technology, but on computer it's pretty new. Before it was on film. So when the French were dubbing, they had one projector projecting the film and another projector projecting a 35 millimeters where the text was written by hand, and you would see the text scrolling like you do now in Studio Next, but it was written by hand. So very, very complicated technology. Now it's very easy because you can edit it, you can write on it, and you can change it on the fly. So it's a very different system. Great,
Very
Maria.
good.
We, I will let you know. I will check with the engineers. Maria, it was a pleasure having you. Let's stay in touch and see what we can do. If we can find you dubbing to do in Barcelona. We are in
That would be
Barcelona,
amazing.
so we are in Barcelona. So
I
let's.
know, I know. Yeah, I used to work at the studios in Barcelona. I really miss that because now they only ask me to record for my studio. And then I had such a good time recording with the engineers there and meeting people.
Of
And
course, but
yeah,
well, it was because of the COVID. But
exactly. Yeah.
now the studio are opened again, and I'm sure you can come. And if you tell them,
I'd love to go back. Yeah.
tell them I want to come to the studio, they will say yes. Or if they say something, tell them that you talk to me. So everybody, we are arriving to our 40 minutes. It was like a breeze. It went very fast. Maria, thank you so much
Thank you, Jack.
for joining. So I remind everybody, this was episode number 9, versatility in voiceover, and we understand what versatility is now after Maria's amazing career in everything related to the voice. And I say I say to everybody, see you next month. It's the third Thursday of the month, and it will be next time episode number 10. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Maria,
you, Jacques.
talk to you soon.
It was a big
Bye-bye.
pleasure. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.